Well, this is a video that's directly to you, Irish. And you don't even have to put this connected to your video. That doesn't really concern me. I just wanted to address you directly. You're definitely of the sons of Issachar. From the very moment that I saw your videos on the history of Israel, you had it right. This couldn't have been written more interesting. I mean, it's almost like a movie. You have the prophecy of Magog and Gog, and you're right, it is Persia and Russia, which Persia is Iran, and they will form an alliance. And one thing that it does say, all nations will gather against Israel. Now you have to understand that one of the things that all this has to come into fruition is the abomination of desolation has to be set up on the Temple Mount. And that is one of the most holiest of holies. It is the most holiest spot where God's presence, His essence, actually sat upon that mountain. Isn't it interesting that the very mosque that's set upon there is denying Christ? Basically, it says, there's God has no companion. It says it about 5 times, and then mentions Jesus on that mosque. That Jesus was a prophet of God, but only a prophet. It denies the Trinity. What's astounding to me, and with what I do with my ministry and what I teach, and I work full time. I do, but I have this ministry, the day to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and this all started from researching, never thinking I would have uncovered what I have uncovered. You have a people that have been persecuted worse than any other group of people on the face of the earth, just for the sole reason that they're Jews. It's simple as that. From Russia and the pogroms to the Protocols of Zion being created by Nicholas, Tsar Nicholas, which is still reprinted and used today, was reused by Hitler, was used it's being used by the Islamic nations. And the same protocols are also the basis of a lot of these Zionist conspiracies that everyone is harping about. Many people on the net. And it's amazing when you have Christians that still believe in replacement theology, when you have Romans 11, which explains very vividly exactly what the Jewish people's part in all of this is. And then you have Matthew, in Matthew 24, it talks about the fig tree. And the fig tree, when its leaves are on the fig tree, blooming. And what's interesting about that, if you think about it, and you know about a fig tree, the fig tree's leaves actually grow after the fruit is on the tree to protect the fruit from the sun's rays. Isn't that interesting that fig tree represents Israel? And then when the leaves are on the tree, yet the fruit is there. The fruit is there in that tree. I mean, really, I'd let you rest and meditate upon that one. I'm sure you understand it based on all the things you said. I mean, you look at this city, Jerusalem. It's never been a capital to any other nation but Israel. And if you talk to people in the 1920s that Israel would return, they would look at you cross-eyed. It was an impossibility. But with the culmination of the Holocaust, which this was just, this grew. This was almost like a sport. Even as far back as you look at 1492, and most people know that as Columbus, sailing for the Americas, right? Well, 1492 is where Spain ousted Jews who were there for over 500 years. It's not like you just drive anywhere, it wasn't very easy to replant yourself or reestablish yourself back in 1492, and they were told either to convert to Christianity or die. And what's even more astounding is, I mean, the enemy will use Christianity to be the driving force of anti-Semitism. And yet all of this, and Jesus was a practicing Jew. You can't write this any more clearer. And you look at everything that has to do with Jerusalem and how the entire world is hinged. And it even says in the Bible that I will make Jerusalem a millstone that will be wrapped around the neck of the nations. And with the abomination of desolation that has to be formed, do you realize the turmoil that the world's going to be in for that to actually take place? To level that mosque, to level that land, to rebuild something within its place. You have to, I mean, as a Christian, know. And if you're not in the know, then you're blind, and you're believing a lie. And it's just, it blows my mind when I look at it. I mean, right down to the Isaiah scroll, the Dead Sea Scroll. And the Dead Sea Scroll, mind you, is 1,000 years older than the manuscripts that our Bible was written on, okay? And it was 97% accurate, 97% accurate, 95% accurate. And 5% of that discrepancy pretty much matched the meaning anyway. It was just a little bit of words varying. Think about that. I mean, for crying out loud, most people, you whisper in someone's ear and that story is changed by the 10th person. Probably even sooner than that. And here are these people that this book was given oral, it was an oral translation in the beginning and then written down. And so here you have 1,000 years of the Dead Sea Scrolls being 1,000 years older than the actual basis of the Bible written. And what's more interesting than that is they ended up finding the most complete version of the Isaiah scroll. And at one point of the discovery and verification of that Dead Sea Scroll was on November 29th, 1947, which is when the UN voted and petitioned for Israel to have its own nation again. Yeah. So I applaud you with your video. And yes, most people are, it drives me nuts when people just talk about the Zimmerman, especially Christians. I'll have like people who Christians wanting to talk about the Zimmerman case or talk. Everybody should be paying attention to what they should be paying. And you're right, Russia is tied with Syria, which is tied with Iran. And every nation, and you see the change of heart in this nation as we speak. Bless them and I will bless you. Curse them and I will curse you. I find it even more interesting. One of the things I found amazing was it talks about we will not divide. You cannot divide my land. And going with that one scripture verse, you bless them, I will bless you. Curse them, I will curse you. The very same day that the Madrid peace plan was in its, when the meeting was starting, that was when the perfect storm happened and slammed into George Bush Sr.'s home. The very day that we had Katrina was the day we forced the Jewish people out of the Gaza Strip. And as they were evacuating Jews, we were evacuating citizens out of that city. I found it even more fascinating, too, the day that Obama said that we have to return Israel to its 67 borders. And 3 days later, the Joplin tornadoes. And do a word study on Joplin. Comes from the book of Job, meaning people of suffering. People should pay attention, those who are in the know, those who are watchmen on the wall, know. So I just wanted to throw this on there and just address you directly. I mean, I'm sure I'm dropping subs like flies, but this is what my life is about. On top of all the other videos, Gettysburg stuff that I do, and prepping, but there is no prepping if your soul is not prepped. Anyway, do your best. Let God do the rest. I want to just add to that. I just really thank you for your work and your courage to say the truth. It's commendable, among many other things that are commendable about you, but I thank you and applaud you. Take care.